Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Professor Christopher McGlothlin. I am the creative pit boss of Ghost Show Press, and every so often, in a wild mood and out of a wild blue yonder, I get to host this, our official imprint podcast, The Ghost Show. And tonight we're here for the absolute best of reasons. We're here to celebrate the people who make the things that we do happen, our tremendous backers, because a elite list of backers every single campaign gets to come right here and be part of the Brady Bunch grid and talk about whatever the heck they want to talk about. And that's what we're doing here tonight. And this is the official wrap up of our campaign for the fifth book. So before I get into my esteemed guest, just a little background on who we are and what we do in case this is your first time tuning in. Well, now me again, I'm the ringmaster of this circus. You might know me from, I pop up in the occasional horror movie documentary, but my prime calling card these days is, in cooperation with these wonderful folks, I get to put out this amazing series of books called Everyone's Gone to the Movies, and we get to talk about movies that in this great mass of, you can pretty much see everything ever filmed. What would you otherwise miss? We sort of advocate for films that you might otherwise miss, that do something different, do something novel, do something. They either make the rules, they break the rules. It's more than just your typical potboiler. And thanks to the great support of backers like the one we're going to celebrate tonight, we have been blessed to do transgressive horror. We've been blessed to do subversive sci-fi. We've been blessed to do fantastic flops, transgressive horror resurrected, and our fifth book, which is currently in production, subversive sci-fi evolution, and it is well on its way. And one more thing for the people that are tuning in to learn more about that, I have a special surprise announcement for all the people that supported us. Because you lovely people got this book funded without us having to use very much of our ad budget at all, I was in this embarrassing position of like having money left over. And rather than go off to Vegas and do things that I wouldn't be able to speak publicly thereof after, I went out and commissioned 2 more essays for you guys. So let me break the news to the world. When Subversive Sci-Fi Evolution reaches you, it will have brand new bonus essays from our very own Dr. Kristen Hutchinson, who is discussing the recent critical and commercial hit Nope, which is just fun to say. Even if you don't know anything else about it, it's fun to say. And our very own Spike Jones picked up a fallen torch and is opining about Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, which will make a nice companion piece to my rather less kind evaluation of Star Trek Generations. But that's neither here nor there. We're here to celebrate our super backer, Tom Paget. Say hello to the people.
Hello, people. I'm
right.
Tom Paget.
Yes, he's an old friend of the company, of the podcast. We look forward to seeing him back every single campaign, and we're certainly glad to have him back now. And we'll get into his topic in just a second. I want to finish introducing the amazing people that I am surrounded with here. So going around here, next up, a newcomer. Certainly one of the contenders for Rookie of the Year on the Ghost Show team here. Our very well, Dev, introduce yourself to the people there.
Hi, folks. My full name is Devindra Thiara. I just often go by Dev. It's just a nomenclature I've had for quite a while. Either is fine. You're welcome to address me however you want. I guess I'm a little new to both podcasting and sort of essay writing and sort of creative works like that, but I've had a bit of history writing on tabletop games, short stories, always had a lifelong interest in pop culture, comic books, movies, things like that. I spent quite a bit of my youth skipping school and hanging out downtown Toronto in the arcades and multiplexes and bookstores, and kind of just somehow managed to still get to university, and did end up taking a degree in literature and computer science. So I've had these sort of twin interests through my life, and was fortunate enough to be able to, at this point in my life, be able to start doing creative writing and more works and sort of share my thoughts. And again, grateful if people find what I have to say interesting and maybe some unique insights from just my particular experiences of life and sort of culture. So that's me in a nutshell. And I'll pass the torch back to you, Prof. Unless someone has anything specific they want to ask me.
I just want to note that it's been a great pleasure getting to know you in this project, and now that I know that you're yet another good kid who really wasn't in school, you feel like you feel like you're solidly part of the family now. We're one of the people that was mischievous and had no real excuse for it. And I there you go. Well, one of us. Here you go.
Yeah, I frankly found school to be. I don't know how to really describe it. I had an experience with an English teacher at one point when when you're young, you don't put a lot of effort into, shall we say, school. But I actually decided to put some effort into writing a particular short story for this English lit class. I handed it in, and I got accused of plagiarizing it or something.
No.
And that just turned me off. I was like, no, I put effort into this one, and I don't deserve this. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. There are far more interesting movies for me to just be out there. And we used to have this big giant 30-plex thing downtown. And once you bought like one ticket to get in, no one cared how many movies you saw or what you did. Mm-hmm. So for a while there, I was literally just watching every piece of garbage movie that just came down the pipeline. And it was
you really are
described that. It was bizarre.
You are of our tribe, sir.
Yes.
And speaking of mischievous creative people, that takes us to the one, the only Lisa Morton. And honestly, I truly say, if you don't know Lisa, I feel sorry for you. I mean, you get adventures in classic science fiction. You get cat adventures. You get used bookstore adventures. You get amazing new products that she's doing. I mean, honestly, if she weren't here, and I'm glad she's here, because if it was just me talking about her, you guys would think I was making her up. But here you go, proof that she exists, the one, the only amazing Lisa Morton. And please, if you want to add anything to that, go right ahead.
Wow, I'm not even sure what to say after that. That was lovely. Thank you. Just a few words about myself. I like to call myself a reformed screenwriter because I did my time in the Hollywood prison and managed to escape reasonably intact. I also used to work in special effects back in the hallowed days of the 1980s. I did model making. I did special makeup effects. Then I discovered my real passion, which was prose writing. And I've written 4 novels, 200 short stories, a bunch of nonfiction. One of my last pieces that I did at the end of last year was a bucket list item for me. I was invited to contribute the liner note essay for a Criterion release.
There you go. Here.
Yeah, that was very cool. They just announced it. It will be out in March. It is an amazing martial arts action film called The Blade from Choi Hawk.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great. And this is going to be a really beautiful release of it. So I'm really happy to be a part of that. And I'm very happy to be a part of this book because I got to revisit a movie I love. And that I kind of had some interesting connections to, but we'll get into that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I have to admit, keeping an eye on the Criterion releases every single month. It was always fun guessing, is this it? Is this one? Is this the one? And I kind of figured that was it. But there are so many more that would not have disappointed me at all. But I'm glad it was that one. And
yeah, I mean, I would love to be invited back to do more, So it was really fun to work on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's having lived a good chunk of my life watching movies and going through special features. One of the great blessings of doing this now is seeing like people that I get to work with on these books popping up on discs doing various things. It's wonderfully crazy there. And speaking of people who no stranger to filmmaking and doing his own thing, I could call Tim a filmmaker, but that would just be a start. I could call him a writer, but that would just be a start. A visual artist, a raconteur, a man about town. If I didn't know that his lovely wife, our lovely wife, is always in the audience, I would say possibly ne'er-do-well, but I won't because I know she's listening. But welcome back to the podcast, Tim. Say hello to the folks and throw in anything.
Hello, folks. You just missed hearing her laugh in the background. background. That was good.
Okay, he's an angel. He's an angel. I promise.
She knows. She knows. Hi, yes, I'm Tim, filmmaker in Houston, Texas, theater designer, a corporate creative director, and a lifelong Harlan Ellison fan, like my friend Tom.
And that is the thing that brings us here tonight at Tom's request. We are looking at one of the better known works by a true giant, a true legend. I mean, my goodness, it's like, can you overhype Harlan Ellison, especially 1975 Harlan Ellison? Anything I could possibly say about him would probably be true. It's just that amazing a story to talk about. And at Tom's request, like I said, we're going to talk about mainly we're going to focus on the 1975 movie adaptation of his seminal work, A Boy and His Dog, which was brought to the screen by longtime Sam Peckinpah supporting player L.Q. Jones, and realized Harlan was notoriously hard to please, especially in one particular element of this film I know we're going to talk about. But the fact that 50 years after, it was 40 years after the fact, Harlan was willing to be in the same room with LQ, and LQ felt safe being in the same room as Harlan to talk about it. We have to call this one of the more successful Ellison adaptations by the man's own criteria. And we can talk about the story, or just talk about just how impossibly important and influential that he was at that moment in time. So we could go around. Well, let's just do a round here. All right, Tom, tell the folks about why this was your pick.
Oh, wow. So early on in my existence, I stumbled across Harlan Ellison, and he just infected my brain like he does with so many different people. And when I was looking at this volume of subversive science fiction movies, I read through the list and said to myself, why isn't A Boy and His Dog on here? And so that was my immediate reaction. I apologize. I hope I didn't offend anybody by that, because I know
great.
that y'all there's so many films out there.
But
so I immediately said to you, I think on the list, I said, well, I'm going to support this at a X level, because A Boy and His Dog needs to be in here. And because I went back and checked the other books and it wasn't there either. And so I said, okay. And then, Halloween came along and you were so stressed. And so I said, let's just do it. And so, but why A Boy and His Dog? Why not? It's one of the most fantastic stories of all time. It is, it still sticks on so many different levels. It has an impact that goes beyond just the words and the story itself. It makes you think, it makes you feel, it makes you cry, it makes you laugh, and it's Harlan Ellison to the core. And I'm not going to say it's his hardest story, because it's not, but it's an introduction to the hard part of Harlan Ellison. And I will tell you this, that I think every soul needs to have some Harlan Ellison. And if you're missing the hard parts, I think you're missing out on being a human, because, Harlan makes you human. So that's kind of why I've chosen Harlan Ellison, and I've chosen him my whole life. I mean, those stories, I still read them. I just bought the Last Dangerous Visions. I've learned a whole lot more about him because of the essay by J. Michael Straczynski, who, by the way, is a hero in my in my book. That dude is, he's keeping the legacy alive, and he's doing the best he can. And if you don't go and look up the website and donate to him and support him, you should. Because, like I say, what the world is missing is some Harlan Ellison.
Did you ever hear the story about how they met?
Maybe, but I don't remember it right now. So,
Stu-
why don't
Stu-
hey, Prof, tell
quick,
us the story of how they met.
please. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Straczynski was a struggling Hollywood creative and was feeling utterly discouraged. And back in those days when you could get the paper phone book and see the listings of people much richer and much more famous than you are, he found Ellison's number, cold called him, told him about his problems, and they rejected this script for this stupid reason and all this, and he waited. There was a pause, and Ellison goes, "Well, stop writing crap then." Click. and thus was a friendship born.
Nice.
And he stopped writing crap.
He did.
By the way,
right
I
away.
can recite that number, 310-271-9636.
Oh my God.
So, Lisa, enough about me. I want to hear about your interactions with him. Can you, what's your, what was it like meeting him?
And we will come back to you, Dev, I promise.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know.
Go ahead, please. Questions out there. Didn't want Deb to think we're going to forget about it, but go ahead, ask your question, please. It's your podcast.
I knew Harlan through a number of different channels. The reason I know his number by heart is because we used to do a lot of business with him through the used bookstore where I've been working for about 35 years. And here is a weird little known fact about Harlan. He loved to make prank phone calls. At least he loved to make them to me. There was a period where I would get one probably every week from him. And they were like the dumbest, worst prank phone calls. I mean, they were right up there with the, do you have Prince Albert in a can or is your refrigerator running kind of things. And sometimes he would put on a bit of a silly voice, but I mean, I always knew it was him. It was always like, yeah, hi, Harlan, I knew him I would see him fairly frequently through various writing things here in the LA area. He was even a guest at a very small private wedding when one of my best friends was married and she was tight with him, and he managed to insult my mother on that particular occasion.
Oh,
well, so before you go on, tell me the number because I want to write it down. What was it? 3?
I think it's long dead.
I know, of course it is, but I just want to know
was 310-271-9636 is what I remember.
1636.
Yeah, I've still got it in my files at work. I can always double check that. Yeah.
310-271-636.
271-9636. Yeah.
271-9636. Okay,
and I apologize to anyone that number may have been reassigned to. I'm sure that.
Right. It's on a YouTube channel, so somebody's going to call it. Right. I thought the bots are calling it.
Yeah. There you go. Our viewers said, there you go. Absolutely. Could not agree more. Could not have said it better myself.
And before I go back to Dev, how did he insult your mother? If you can,
I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. It was one of these things where, and my mother was an absolute sweetheart. She was just she was like my best friend.
And Harlan insulted her, of course.
Harlan insulted her, and it was something at the wedding where my mother made some kind of very innocuous comment about something she liked, and he was like, "Oh, that thing is shit," I mean, as
like, I like pine cones, and he's like, "No, pine cones, no." Are you kidding me? Pine cones, why? So, Dev, what is your connection to Harlan Ellison?
Nothing near as close to any of you folks. I mean, my awareness of Ellison was largely through the Star Trek episode City on the Edge of Forever, I believe. And, being up here in Canada, we have a bit of an insular culture growing up, in a sense, as in, very limited channels. Not a lot of stuff came up here. Even if you were into science fiction and fantasy, things like that, you kind of had to go out of your way to find where that material was. We didn't have a lot of bookstores or things like that, so you ended up with small sort of cliques and schools or whatever, if folks who were interested in similar sort of things like that. But I knew Ellison's name was one of the big writers, and sort of. And I had an interest at that time as a teenager in short stories and things like that. And even at that time, I had sort of a kernel of an idea that I wanted to try my hand at maybe trying some writing or storytelling or something. I didn't know exactly what, but so I tried to seek out people who were considered masters of the form, right? So I was impressed with a lot of his short story writing and just his prolific nature. Him and Roger Zelazny are the two that stick out of my mind as being sort of masters of that short story craft. They just had a way of, getting everything in sort of a concise way, and it was just sort of like, okay, and I tried very hard to learn what I could from these sort of masters, as it were. And I think it was just an interesting time because you didn't have an internet. You didn't really have a lot of sources. You had a few of these sort of fanzines and analog and sci-fi this magazines, like occasionally you'd find here or there or pick up, but that was kind of about it. And it was just nice to have these big names. You could at least go around and talk to other folks who were interested in similar sort of subject matter, or go to like a used bookstore and poke around and find if there's any articles or magazines by these folks and things like that. So I always had an appreciation for the way he was this larger than life figure to some degree, where I don't like, maybe it's easier today with all the influencer markets that are out there. Maybe it is, I don't know, because you're competing against so much. Or maybe, at that time, there was just enough room on the pedestal, as it were, for a few folks at the top, and they dominated the conversation. Either way, my experience with them was just more at a distance, but I knew that, okay, there is a role model I can use to pursue something if I'm interested in, and kind of, see how he did it, how it was done. And kind of, try and follow that path if I wanted to, basically. So I always had an appreciation for just the stuff he did, and I liked the fact that he was sort of a bit, I don't know if ornery is the right word, but a bit of candy sort of individual. Didn't really take a lot of shit from too many sources. I always felt as a writer, you kind of had to have a bit of backbone or spine to fight what you believe in or what you felt was worth saying or writing, basically, because you always had, I think it's always good to be open to editors, obviously, but at some point you kind of have to say, no, this is what I want to say. This is what I want, right? And I thought Harlan was obviously very vocal about what he wanted and how he wanted it, and that's a thing that's sometimes underappreciated in sort of these committee projects we have more of these days, and you find a bit of a loss in terms of that uniqueness in a voice.
Very much so.
I remember first time, kind of coming across a Boy and His Dog, and partially I just wasn't sure what I just watched. I was like, what I just watched? Like, what's going on? Very like cannibalism and talking.
Did you see it at the theater, or was it on TV? Or
no, it was some late night TV thing. I was fumbling across something.
Late night movie, okay.
Kind of realizing, hey, that's that dude from Miami Vice, and kind of
okay,
oh god.
And so, how did you feel after watching it?
Well, at first, it was strange ideas, like, these sort of some kind of weird mutant things, and these people living in these sort of underground bunkers, and, this sort of main character who had, shall we say, less than savory ideals of what a hero is, right?
Oh, yeah.
And this kind of weird dog thing, and I was like, all right. And, I didn't connect it to Ellison at the time. I thought it was just one of those strange B movies and whatever. I had a bit of an appetite for things like that, so it was fine in terms of consuming that. But much later on, I became a huge fan of the Fallout game series. Played obviously all of them from 1, 2, all the way through.
Okay.
And that sort of connected to me realizing, okay, this is where these folks drew a lot of the source material from for how they made this, basically, right? In terms of, they even had the dog companion in there you could recruit, and the vaults and the mutants and the kind of pretty abrasive, harsh outlook on life. And part of it's quite crude. It was a fair bit of violence all around, the environment, against women, everything. I was like, all right. And then later on, I had when I started reading a bit more in terms of trying to understand authors and their voices, I did start connecting all of these dots and connecting all of these things from my own history and past, and realizing how it all kind of forms and shapes, and sort of the degree to which Ellison had influenced so many people and so many folks, and shaped so many things. And it's one of those realizations I think comes to you as you become older and start having a better understanding of where these little puzzle pieces fit in culture, and how they connect, and who did what, and who ran into someone, where, and kind of doing something like that. So I can't say I, directly ever met the man, or understood, exactly who he was, etc. But it always solidified for me this sort of unique author he was, and the place he came from, what he did, sort of the whole science fiction, sort of writers conclave that was in that area of sort of California, Arizona, places like that. Because it was very, very foreign to what my experience was growing up in Canada, and especially in Toronto. We didn't have exposure or access to any of these sort of things. And I've been down to California a few times, and always sort of admired what the landscape gave to some of these folks in terms of growing up there. And it was one of my things where I always thought how my life would turn out if somehow as a teenager I had got down to California.
Oh yeah.
And was able to sort of experience that culture of the 70s and 80s, even 90s afterwards, and kind of do that. But we all have these, I think, these other life dreams in a sense. In retrospect, I'm content to what I experienced and where I am now, so that's fine. But I always kind of enjoy the background of these authors, and what they bring in, and how they are able to create what they do, and kind of try and just every author I've always have dug into, have found that their life is larger than what you see when you first meet them through their prose, as it were, right? Always the background of who's their experiences and what they're able to bring, things like that. And I always admire folks who are able to put that down and get it across to a large audience, and explain some of their viewpoints and how they matter, and how that resonates, and how today, we're able to share that, and kind of, here we are on this YouTube podcast, a bunch of random people talking about it, and able to share a experience, and share sort of a culture which we're in vast sort of, distances away, even sometimes like that. So,
and speaking of sharing, I want to give Tim a chance, but I've got to come back to you, because
sure.
I have a Canada Harlan Ellison question. Okay. I have been wanting to ask for like 45 years. So see, I'm going to push. There you go. I'm going to build that up for later.
Ask it.
Tim, you've been the quiet one so far. So talk to us about you and the film that's playing behind you, and the man responsible for it.
Well, yeah, long story short. I'll tell you the end first. I actually finally got to meet Harlan Ellison in, I think it was around 96.
Wow.
He was doing a reading at a Murder by the Book in Houston, and I finally got to meet him and hang out with him for like a grand total of about 12 minutes, which at that point, for his level of patience for fandom was probably, and it was great because I had nothing to say. Meet your heroes. Blah, blah, blah. But I did give him a copy of No Resistance, which I'm pretty sure he threw in the trash immediately. And that was the last time personal connection with the man. But
Oh,
to zip it back. I believe I've been reading Harlan Ellison since I was 8.
wow.
I was just a massively voracious science fiction reader in my youngest years, and I'm pretty sure by the time 8 or 10 came around, I was done with all the Asimovs and Heinleins and Clarks. And what happened in the mid 70s was very punk. And in that we got Michael Moorcock and Harlan Ellison, and we got for me at least, Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller and all these guys who were like taking traditional literature and giving it a new voice. And I just got sucked into that so hard. So I'm pretty sure somewhere between 76 and 78, I already had this guy. And this is my original ragged copy of it with all my notes in it. And I was just fascinated. I honestly think the 3 authors that meant the most to me through those formative years were Ellison and Douglas Adams and Kurt Vonnegut. And they all kind of made a triumvirate of people who were creating new voice and being satirical and pointing things in a different end. And so I was just fascinated with him. So much of what he wrote is a part of my vocabulary that it pops up all the time.
Wow.
But I didn't see A Boy and His Dog until 1982.
Wow.
But I'll always remember it because it was the summer of 82. This was the summer of E.T. and the Thing and blah, blah, blah. And I was spending the summer with my father in Baton Rouge. And he had enrolled me in an improv class, a local community theater improv class.
Wow.
Which I took to very well. And it was filled with 14 to 16-year-old girls. So as a 14-year-old kid or a 15-year-old kid, I was like, this theater thing, this is working out. Because I could make stuff up on the fly and be funny about it, I guess. So the class was winding down, and A Boy and His Dog was playing at the Midnight Theater at the mall.
Wow.
This is July of 82. And I said, hey, class, everybody, let's all go see A Boy and His Dog. I've always wanted to see this movie. It's great. We should see it.
Oh, boy.
In my mind, it's the mall they shot Logan's Run. If it wasn't, don't tell me. Because
this is a dead copy of the mall that they shot.
Of course.
Even better. Even better.
Right.
And that summer they showed Wizards and all it. I was having fun. Anyway, so me and 7 or 8 or 9 other 14 to 16-year-old girls chaperoned by their parents went to go see A Boy and His Dog.
Oh no.
Wow.
And
this is not going to end well.
Within 16 minutes or 18 minutes, they had all been dragged home.
Well done.
But I sat there and watched it because I finally got to see A Boy and His Dog. And and so that was there's this feeling we get now when we realize that film was dangerous at one point.
Oh yeah.
I guess this was a quick point I wanted to make, in that there isn't really anything dangerous anymore or anything that's not proscribed by society that we can see. But at that time, being a 15-year-old kid and understanding that there were things that we should not see, that we weren't allowed to yet see, and then to have access to them, and then discover that those things are, despite some of this, let's just for sake of a better word, 70s attitudes, in this understand the humor and the middle finger to the norms of society. What could be more influential than that? And that was it was first his words, And then it was this movie.
Oh, wow. Ooh, wow, that's hard to top there. I had about 12 minutes with Ellison myself, but I will freely admit most of that was him threatening to kill someone else that just happened to be standing there. So I probably shouldn't even count that time, but you know, I have to pad my life resume there. So
you get what you get.
Exactly.
I got nothing.
And really, if he had to been threatening somebody, it really would have seemed like a hard Harlan story, you know?
Honestly, I think you probably got the better deal.
He wasn't threatening me. That's the only thing I remember being glad about at the time is thank God this guy, no matter what dumb thing I do, this guy has set a bar. I got no worries here. I at worst, I'll be the second most annoying person he met today. So, yeah. There was a guy who, it was back when Harlan was like, it seemed like comics were his main thing for a while. And he had come out with this like really nice graphic novel edition of one of his stories. And this guy kept insisting that he sign the page in a particular color ink. And I heard Harlan tell him to his face, much nicer than you would expect, that, you know, this is going to fade and you're not going to be able to read it. And he kept cutting line and coming back saying, oh, it faded. Would you do it again? And like the second, and I couldn't believe this guy made it to a second or third time, but the second or third time he did it, Harlan unleashed, to borrow a line from Gene Shepard, this cloud of profanity that I'm sure is still hovering over Atlanta, Georgia. And he did it while having a double cheeseburger in one hand. And I swear he was able to eat the cheeseburger and chew this guy out at the same time. And I really wish I could do it justice, but I only remember the last thing he said when this guy wisely chose to flee. He yells, "And I'm glad I got grease stains in your book." And then it was my turn to get an autograph. And he was like, "Yeah, what do you want?" I was like,
whatever.
Nothing, sir. After having been in line for 2 hours, I was that close saying, nothing at all. Sorry to bother you. So yes, there you go. There you go. That's the bulk of my Harlan story. He gave me another heart attack before the whole thing was over, but I'll go back to Tom. Let's see here. Right, Tom.
Back to me. I would ask Lisa another question.
Go ahead.
What did he think of the ending of the movie compared to the ending of the book?
Oh,
he was not too happy about it. You know, one of the things I am sorry about is that I never talked to him in person about A Boy and His Dog. Although I am thinking now, you guys have fired off a memory in my head of something, which is I think I saw the movie when I was 16, but I saw it in 1975 at a science fiction convention with Harlan.
Oh, wow.
And I loved it right from the start. But when I was researching this piece for the book, I had not really dug into how he felt about that ending. And there's a fantastic, very detailed interview with him in Cinefantastic magazine, which I have a pretty good collection of out in my garage, thank goodness. And their cover feature on A Boy and His Dog is really, really good. And he talks at length in there about that ending. And so did LQ Jones about why he went with what he did. And I kind of personally am somewhere in between the two of them.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know if we want to do the spoiler alert thing and get into what that ending is or not.
It's my podcast. We are. So I'm sorry.
If you haven't seen the 51-year-old movie,
too bad. That's why you're here, Lisa, is to tell us what your insight is.
The ending, of course, of the novelette is a boy loves his dog. And now this is an internal thing from that protagonist. So I totally get why that was not going to transfer to film. I'm not sure "she had good taste" was the right final line for the film. I personally don't hate it.
With the chuckle, because I do feel like it sends you out of the film on an upbeat note. So,
relatively speaking,
that's great.
Yeah, and
I love it.
You know, like I said, I consider myself a fairly intense believer in women's rights and feminist and all whatever they're calling it these days, and I didn't have a problem with that ending because it was about the love between Vic and Blood, and I think the ending of the movie still captures that. And by the way, there's one thing that I disagree with on some people. There is a sort of school of thought that says that she, in the novelette, she is not the victim of their cannibalism, which I find extremely strange that someone could have read that way. I think it's fairly clear in the novelette as well.
Yeah.
What would their basis be? I don't, other than just.
Well, it does. It is implied much more in the novelette. The implication is a little bit more ambiguous than it is in the movie. I mean, for example, the novelette cannot have a shot of like smoke clearing over the horizon. You know that.
Right.
But I think
the novelette does say Blood now has pink bandages.
Yeah.
So there's also the idea that
her dress.
Right.
I thought it was funny in the essay at the beginning of this that there are several quotes that they've dug up from Ellison where he goes, "I've made my peace with it, you know." I think he knew the film market he needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess he eventually even saw it as like a piece of a different thing than his. But then, of course, this also writes the next chapter as being extremely apologetic to that event.
So here's my question.
Sacrifice.
Here's my question. Why not use the line from the novel in the film? Everyone seems to say, of course we have to change it, but why?
Well, I think it was just because it was the 70s and because L.Q. Jones was a bit of a comedian and he knew that he wanted to, I don't know if he would use the word, but because I think he wanted to make it raw and transgressive.
Okay.
He wanted to punk it up.
All right.
Is what I think. He wanted to make it a mid.
I would suggest that some of it might have had to do too with actually seeing this character Vic on screen, and as he is portrayed by Don Johnson, he's not an incredibly thoughtful guy. To end the movie with him saying, "I love my dog," which is the only way you could have done it.
Right. Okay.
Every audience member would have been like, "Oh, stop.
Are you kidding me?" Right. Okay, I like that too.
That's a really good point.
What do you think, Dev?
I mean, the ending again was one of those things I just remember stopping and having to kind of think about, like what just happened?
The rest of us did not. We all knew what happened.
I was like, was that just cannonball?
It really did just happen.
Did that just happen? Right?
Yeah,
yeah. Up until that point, I kind of knew that the main protagonist it's quite an ass. But he didn't quite cross that line until that end moment when
he loved his dog, though.
Yeah, he absolutely did love his dog. It's his dog for certain. So
Prof,
all right.
Prof, what about you?
I don't know that I have ever. I remember first being aware of the story and how it ends, reading about the film in one of the seminal books of my life, Ed Naha's The Science Fictionary. And I was 11 when I read about it. And up till that point, the vast majority of my science fiction experience was Star Trek, Star Wars, and 50s sci-fi. And it was just the veil falling from my eyes, thinking like, can people really get away with this? Because I bought this book to learn more about, the PAL War of the Worlds, and it's the book that turned me on to A Boy and His Dog and Andy Warhol's Frankenstein and other films that to this day I'm not quite sure how ever got made, even in the 70s. That's the first time I'd ever heard, when I found out what Rocky Horror Picture Show actually was, rather than something that people kept making sitcom jokes about. And it just blended into this amazing lifting of the veil that if you're a creative person, there aren't and there shouldn't be any limits on what you want to get into and how you want to get into it. And for whatever flaws he possessed, and Lord knows we all have them, and just most of us don't get to have them out in public, or don't have to have them out in public like Harlan did. We owe him a tremendous debt for truly expanding the boundaries of what you could get away with.
Yeah, and Michael Moorcock falls into that too, and which is really great because Michael Moorcock was the one who would publish the short story.
Absolutely,
first.
absolutely. And while we're talking about Moorcock fans, free commercial. If fans of kind of out there 60s and 70s fantastic stuff, you haven't already, the wonderful folks at Severin Films have resurrected the final program, the not always successful but never dull adaptation of Moorcock's first Jerry Cornelius story. They released it, and they put the film in its proper context. There's an extended career spanning interview with Moorcock. And it's great just because it reminds you of just what that man accomplished. And the thing that really fascinated me is for the first time in 50 years, I finally get an extended discussion of his issues with the film. Mm-hmm. And so there you go. Recommend, and it's Blu-ray and 4K HD. So highly recommended on all counts there. And I don't make anything off that. So there you go. That's a genuine endorsement.
I am awaiting its arrival right now.
You won't be disappointed. All right. Now, if nobody else has anything, before we get out of here, I have to ask Dev my question. Okay. Now I don't want to build this up too much because you're free to just give me a straight no. But I can't think about Ellison in Canada. And speaking of Peak Ellison, 1975, I can't help but think about Ellison in Canada and not think about The Star Lost, which is another thing that came onto my radar because of Ed Naha's book. And I spent like 35 years thinking like, it's Harlan Ellison. How bad could it be? Until thankfully that had a very extremely unlikely complete series DVD. And I finally got to see it. Yeah, about that bad. So Dev, did the Star Lost, this was supposed to be Canada's Star Trek. Did it have any kind of impact? Was there like any kind of awareness of this thing up in your native land?
So I had never heard of it, and anyone I've talked to isn't aware of it either. So I don't think so.
There you go.
I've never heard of it.
Exactly.
We in the early part of the mid 70s, I lived in Michigan, and it was actually shown on PBS in Michigan.
Wow.
And I'll be honest, I'm familiar with all kinds of weird, obscure nonsense. Like I remember, Arc 2. It was these little.
There you go.
From California in the middle of nowhere. I was like,
I am now filled with an unfulfilled quest. I want to see the Pledge Week hype of the Star Lost. You won't get programming like this anywhere else except on public TV.
The Pledge Week. Got it.
Hey man, if you were hungry for science fiction, you were hungry for science fiction.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Well, since I brought it up, I feel okay. Let's let know. Ellison had an opportunity to do the Star Lost in Canada. They were promising him full creative control. Doug Trumbull and Ben Bova were going to come and do like state-of-the-art special effects, relatively fresh off 2001 and whatnot. And it was, with the money they were saving by shooting in Canada, it was supposed to show up in so many other aspects of the production. And it went completely to hell and then kept dropping. Ellison, or should I say, Cordwainer Bird wrote the pilot, or I'm sure Ellison, if you were here, would say got the blame for the pilot, and everybody else backed out. They wound up using for special effects. They wound up using the exact same technology they were using in the 70s to put the map of the U.S. behind the weatherman. I think in my review of it, it's like. if they ever made Starlost action figures, you would spend more buying one than they spend producing the actual show. And it's just it's hype versus delivery. It's always kind of lived in my memory, especially when I finally got to see it there. But there you go. And all dozen or so episodes are out there on DVD somewhere, or maybe coming to a public television station near you. All righty, here we go. Oh, here we go. Professor Purge. Odd how little Moorcock has been adapted in other media. I'm unaware of even any animations of Elric or Corm or Hawkmoon, despite their popularity. Oof. Could you get away with Moorcock today? Not to get too far off Ellison, but wow.
Well, Elric should have been done in the 80s. And in fact, I think it was an Eclipse comic or something.
Yes, there are some very good Moorcock Elric comic books.
It would have been absolutely a cinematic event in the 80s. It would have been perfect for it. The doomed hero villain would have been great.
Yeah, I remember.
Purge. Here we go. Oh my God, Professor Purge is familiar with the Starlost. Our audiences, the best audiences in the world. Ellison's take on Heinlein's Orphans in the Sky. Ooh, wow. Now, I'm asking the right people here. I don't remember Ellison being a huge Heinlein fan. He might be ready to fight somebody after reading that. Am I imagining it? Am I imagining heat between Harlison and Heinlein?
I don't remember anything specific. I mean,
me neither.
Certainly,
Harlan wants to punch somebody.
They were a different mold.
I apologize to Harlan and anybody involved if I'm misremembering. I am old.
He'd probably punch anybody. I don't know. Lisa would know him.
I don't recall anything about him in Heinlein, but I'm wondering if everyone knows about the sort of pseudo novelization of the Starlost.
Yes,
which is called
Starcrossed.
Ashes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually haven't read it. I do vaguely recall seeing a few episodes of the Starlost, and yes, it was rather bad. But I haven't read the book, I confess.
Well, before we end, I think we ought to go around on a round table and talk about our favorite short stories.
Okay, all right then. All right, well then, Tom, you're the one who made all this possible. So I think you've earned the right to go first.
So, Repent Harlequin, said the TikTok man.
Ooh, yeah.
Just an outstanding story of resistance to the government, which is so telling today. Everyone should go read that story.
Well, and definitely not talking about myself. By no stretch of the imagination am I talking about myself, but there are people out there who can relate to Repent to their work situation.
Right.
But definitely not me. Totally not me.
Some of us can relate our work situation to I have no mouth when I'm a scream.
Oh, good Lord.
All right. So is that your choice, Tim? Or
No. Honestly, I'm going to go against the grain. All of those are great. Also, Run for the Stars is really great. But honestly, talk about his other most misogynistic piece of work. I love Santa Claus versus Spider.
Yes. So I this was a softball, so that you would say that.
Yes,
you know that, because that novel that story always needs to be. People need to read that story.
Yes, but people who read that story need to remember who people like George Wallace and Spiro Agnew were. So
right.
Gonna fly too much anymore. I want to can I say a real quick thing before we?
Sure, of course.
Topeka. So relaunching this now. As a kid, obviously the post-apocalyptic stuff and how influential it was so great. But watching it now, the Topeka sequences in this movie are
brilliant.
Fire. They are just on target. They have not aged a bit. They've gotten better. the triple layers of sound design going on here with the rhubarb recipes, the politics of the small town totalitarianism, the makeup, the fact that they took Harlan Ellison's robot and they just made him a big burly farmhand. The fact that Jason Robards is so good. I just want to say, if you're
in addition to wait, is that Jason Robards?
If you're on the fence about this movie, forget the screamers and the scrounging for food and Fellini's boy slaves or whatever. If you watch the Topeka stuff again, it'll blow your mind how on target it is. So
Pull another mic out of the vat.
Yes. It's another helpful hint for good living from the committee's almanac. I'll shut up. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. But Deb, what would be your pick?
Well, I must confess I'm not familiar with a lot of Ellison's short stories, work, etc. But I was. I remember the first time was the Soldier, I believe, which James Cameron made into the Terminator, and that is one of my
one way to put it.
Yes.
Nice.
So it was again one of those things I came across as a very young individual, and just remember watching it and just being absolutely just blown away by the fact that this was a thing that was like you could actually do. Like people could take art and make this, and I just remember thinking like how is this possible? Like how I was just so mind blown about the whole process of it and things like that. I'm trying to remember how old I was. I mean, I couldn't have been more than 12 or 13 or like, I don't know, just very young and just sort of trying to wrap my head around like, like I just saw something that was just impossible basically. Like it didn't make any sense. I had to know everything about it and kind of started digging into it. And the fact that, you realize that these things are based on what a writer writes. It comes out of their mind. It's birthed out of there. It inspires others to then do other things, etc. And on it goes. And so for that reason, that particular story, or I don't know if you want to call it even that, or maybe fight or argument between those individuals is sort of reminded me echoes of how some of these things work out basically. And so that's always kind of stuck out about Harlan for me, that particular story of his, where it seems like it was just something he tossed out there off the cuff, as it were, as a sci-fi piece. Then it got picked up by someone else who was able to transform it into something pretty amazing, all things considered, for the time period of when it was done and what it was done. Like it was nothing. I'd seen nothing like this before, in a sense. I mean, and just the I don't know, is the maybe when you're a teenager, you just have this, you gravitate towards this dystopian tellings of some kind. I don't know. I mean, the 70s had enough dystopian movies, as it were. I mean, reminding me of Soylent Green and Planet of the Apes and sort of all of this stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
It seemed to be sort of this. Perhaps this was, what came out of Vietnam, which was, again, Ellison was a big sort of, he talked a lot about that, or maybe it was the fact that the nuclear bomb was an overwhelming sort of, thing that hung over as a sort of Damocles over everything at the time. I don't know, but I remember, as a teenager, just being impressed with people who engaged this material and had other thoughts of how to express, some of the dystopian involved around it, and just sort of that becoming a very strong part of who I was and what I would identify later on. And it's, then later on, obviously, encountering Star Trek and kind of realizing there's another way of looking at sci-fi. It doesn't always have to be doom and gloom and dystopian, right? And then now in later parts of my life, realizing that, that was a bit of a dream we didn't quite achieve, and we're back to some pretty dark times again, right? So you see these sort of things play through, and I get the feeling, what I appreciate about Ellison was that he was able to capture some of that during his time in the 70s and display it and portray it and communicate it in a way that resonates even to today. And I think part of what I'm going to do when I've started going back and rereading influential folks and what they did, and sort of try and take in what works they have, I'm gonna try and brush up on some of his short stories and some of his prose, and kind of see what I missed to some degree. But yeah, that was sort of my take on Ellison. I knew him more before his scripts and his movies and his stuff that got made into various things like Twilight Zone episodes and things like that.
Yes. And the perfect segue into our friend Professor Purge, advocating for an obscure work that I am also a great fan of. Ellison's contribution to the '80s Twilight Zone, his adaptation of Paladin of the Lost Hour. In fact, really everything Ellison did for the '80s Twilight Zone is well worth your time to track down and look at. And one of the rare shows that he had a semi-direct hand into at least for the first couple of seasons into. And that alone makes it worth your while. And Lisa, we have to hear your pick here.
Well, as a lifelong Southern Californian, I think I'm going with Along the Scenic Route.
Oh yeah.
Which is a vicious, nasty little story about institutionalized road rage.
Ooh. Oh, absolutely.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was what was it? It was originally titled where is it? It's right in here. It had a great Dogfight on 101.
Now all our Southern California people will be driving and see that. Think about it. Yeah.
Great choice, Lisa.
Well,
that's phenomenal.
I wanted to try to wrap up tonight by after Ellison was done yelling at the guy and getting cheeseburger grease on his. I had almost outsmarted myself. I thought, well, here's my chance to show Harlan that I'm cool, forgetting that I'm not cool, and I've never been cool. I had brought along a book about the outer limits. Speaking of Soldier. And it was something that Ellison had given the author, David J. Shaw. He had given Shaw the list of inane censor demands that he had gotten on his original script. I mean, just almost like a parody of small-minded. This might possibly give somebody offense, so we can't possibly do it. And I thought I would show this to Ellison and get him to sign it. And he would immediately realize that I am secretly cool, and then I could live the rest of my life rubbing in people's faces. Harlan Ellison thinks I'm cool, but having just gotten done with the cheeseburger guy, Ellison looks me straight in the face and goes, "Why the fuck do you want me to sign this?" And that stuff they tell you about your life flashing before your eyes, absolutely true. I still don't know how, just sheer survival instinct, I managed to yell at, "Because, sir, it reminds me of the stupidity and hypocrisy your work is always exposed." And he goes, and he signed it and handed it back to me. And I thought, okay, I've survived. Might as well go for broke and say, "Thank you very much, sir. Always good to talk to another member of the Junior Justice Society." And Ellison went,
"Oh no!"
Nice. Now I'm taking it in a. I mean, now really, this could have meant go the fuck away, but I'm taking it as a pot. There you go. And again, if nothing else, I didn't annoy him as much as the guy with the cheeseburger.
Bingo.
So there you go. So Harlan, here you go. I got to tell you in person. I'll tell you now as in the hereafter. Thank you again for the hypocrisy and the absurdity that you pointed out, and for making us all aspire to be better creators. And speaking of better creators, nobody on earth works with a better set of creators than I do. And I want to thank Dev, Tim, and Lisa for being here tonight and representing for all the amazing people that I get to work for. And I absolutely have to thank Tom for being here, for making us possible to create things and for making this amazing show happen. And thank you, Tom. We literally could not do this without you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the creation.
Oh, you're very welcome. And for those of you that like to keep track of all our upcoming adventures, including our 2 upcoming Kickstarter projects for 2026, your best source of Ghost Show news is the Ghost Show Facebook page, where I personally guarantee you will be the first people anywhere to know what mayhem we're up to. And in the meantime, if you would like to see, speaking of dogs, my triple bulldog Monty continue to be well fed. you can always support us here by going to our link tree, where you can find links to all our past and present publications, as well as some great show merch. Like, for instance, if you're on the East Coast like I am, those Ghost Show hoodies have never looked more attractive as we head into the deep freeze here. All righty. But there you go. So thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you all for tuning in, and thank you all for supporting what we do. We'll be back before you know it with more of our brand of intellectual mayhem. And until then, thank you. This has been The Ghost Show.